Good afternoon, everyone. This is Christian with PerfectStockAlert.com, a 100% free service for smart investors and traders. All we ask in return, please refer a friend. Today is Friday, it's March 23rd, 2012, and like we do every Friday, we're going to go over all the major market charts that we track at PerfectStockAlert.com so that you know everything I know moving into the week ahead. The first chart we're going to look at is Australia's market, the AORD, and this one I would not be a buyer of, even though there's many charts I'm going to show you today that I would buy, that do have hammer candlestick formation, etc., etc. This one I won't buy. I talked about this one last Friday before she attempted to test this previous resistance line right here. Here's a resistance line. Before she broke through that, we told you that I wouldn't be a buyer even if she did get a breakout, because the longer term chart shows that there are many levels and areas of resistance above that, ever so close above that, that you're not going to have a good breakout and rally run higher. So I just would leave it alone. Also, this one has had a lot of trouble at this area. You had to move up here, broke down, again, broke down, again, broke down, again, broke down, try again. I'm not interested. You failed this level far too many times. Even if you get a breakout, like I said, your upside potential is limited. The Dow Jones Industrial Average is a chart that I'm very interested in. I've talked about this a couple times earlier this week. Here's a previous resistance line right here. Then we were pulling back in that move. We told you you'd find support upon that previous resistance. It's now going to be acting as support. You're also going to have that benefit of the middle Bollinger Band line right there. That's also causing to be the support line. If you took that on your own initiative and bought today's little dip, you made some money, you're all happy and all that stuff. But here's another way to trade it, and I would wait until you get all the signs in place like we have now. What you'll see here is this arrow here is black. Whenever it's black and not blue, that's my way of telling you that if something else happens, I would buy. And that something else is if the following candlestick formation breaks out to a new high based on the candlestick of today. Look at that high point. If we get a higher high tomorrow, if we actually, or not tomorrow, the next trading day, if we actually break out here, then I'd start buying, and I keep a stop right here. We'll start advancing it as soon as we can, but when you first enter the trade, that's how I'd set my stop, right? As soon as you had a breakout to a higher high, I'd buy it, keep a stop here, let it run to the upside and test this previous high. That's going to be an important level here. We want to know, did we just pull back because we had a major move to the upside here, then a little pullback to test this previous resistance and act as support, and then we're going to go much higher? We don't know yet, but for now, this is definitely something I put on my radar as a buy opportunity if I get a breakout to the upside. The CAC French 40 Index, this is another one that you'd be looking for a buy opportunity. Same overall conditions as the Dow Jones Industrial Average. Really good, strong conditions here. You had a nice high point here, a higher high here, low point here, and now looking at this candlestick, it looks like we've got a higher low here. So the trend right here, my friend, is up. And when your trend is up, what do? You go buy. That's what you do. So if you get, again, this is an if and then situation. So if the next trading period is higher than this candlestick's high here, then you buy. 1 cent higher than that, and I'd be a buyer with a stop right here. The German DAX Composite, same overall story. This is another one that I would be, I give my, definite nod to, yes, this one would fit into the idea of being a buyer here. If you get a breakout higher than this candlestick's high, then yes, if you get 1 penny above that, buy it with a tight stop right here. Naturally, we're looking for a test of the previous high, so that's our first target. Whenever we get into this trade, assuming we get into this trade, we start seeing them move to the upside, right here would be your first target. Christian, what do you think about gold? You've got the hammer candlestick formation, you've had the pullback, now you're getting a move higher, and we're seeing that today's candlestick formation here is actually higher than the previous one. So why isn't there an arrow here? Why am I not buying this thing? Because you're in a downtrend. That's why. Whenever you're in a downtrend, you see the situation like this all the time, but it's basically you're trying to call or catch a falling knife here and call a bottom. So I'm not going to do that here, just to teach good habit. I should have done it back here, but I did because I'm naughty. And then you get this pullback right down here, and then you get this move here, and then we go here, and then we go here, and then we go lower, and now we're going here, and we haven't even made a series of higher highs or higher lows yet. So you're trying to trade against the trend by going long here, so I'm going to pass on that and say no thank you. The Hong Kong Hang Seng Index, what do I think about this one? I'll pass. This right here, it's got a very small wick out of the bottom there. Let me clean that up. Very small wick out of the bottom of that candlestick formation. However, it is not a hammer. That's a hammer candlestick formation like that. That's one there. This is not one. I'm just going to let this one pass. Another thing to note, even if this had been a hammer candlestick formation here, you have a high point here, a lower high here, low point here, and now forming, getting really close to a lower low here. This is a counter trend trading if you're trying to go long there, so I'm just not going to do that. Also, if you look at this 50-day moving average right here, really important for bulls, you'll notice you didn't close below it on this test here. However, you did this time. That shows the chart is weakening, not growing stronger. The India Bombay Stock Exchange. This one we tried, well, we've done it a couple times. We played it here with it stopped out, nice little profit there, turned around, and if you tried to buy this next day, actually this is the signal that we gave, said in this day we saw a potential for a double bottom, you could buy that. The next day you got a higher high and you pull back down, so you might have got stopped out. Regardless, you should not be long this. This situation here, it looks like it's starting to break down, getting pulled lower with the Hang Seng market. We don't know for sure. We may have just been stopped out before she moves higher, but I'm not going to try it again. So that's just something that I'm going to let pass by me, even if it is a good trade. Simply looking at it, I can still say that it is still in a bullish condition. So you've got this high point here, a little bit higher here, a low point here, a little bit higher here. So it's still bullish, but I'm just, like I said, I'm not going to try it again. I've got other charts I can trade and make money on that look better than this one. The Japan iShares, or EWJ, if you want to trade Japan's market, you may be trading this one. I'm not going to. I don't see any reason to be a buyer at this point in time. We've been moving sideways for the past couple of weeks. We've been already talked about a trade opportunity back here. We had the hammer candlestick formation. The following day was higher high. All these things were right. But now you don't have that, and it's just moving sideways. Not a lot of activity there. I don't like this compared to other charts. I just trade other charts. Also, we put out a, let's see, it was on our Facebook page, our YouTube, I'm not YouTube, it was on our Facebook page, our Twitter page, as well as our Google Plus page. We put a news article there talking about ETFs and ETNs that are very concerning, and I personally wouldn't be trading an ETF right now if I were you. For those of you who follow us on Facebook, Twitter, Google Plus, you've already seen that article. For those of you who would like to, just go there, you can check it out, okay? The London Financial Times, or the FTSE. This one, the same situation we're talking about with the French markets, and the same with the Dow Jones. A couple of things to note here. High point, higher high, low point, higher low. It's in an uptrend. You've got a nice, strong hammer candlestick formation like that. If you get a higher high the following day, I'd be a buyer with the stop set right here to begin with, off the low of this candlestick, today's candlestick formation, and then a trade up to the upside looking for a test of the previous high. That would make sense to me. One more item to note about this chart. If you look at the 50-day moving average, you'll notice here you close below it. Here you don't. So this is showing that the chart is actually starting to get stronger. That's something you want to see if you're a long or a bull. The NASDAQ. Well, let's see. Apple shares were halted today. That was amazingly odd. Yeah, I would not be a buyer of the NASDAQ. We talked about this actually, what was it, Friday, I believe, of last week. We showed you a pretty thorough review of the NASDAQ, both long-term and the short-term, showing you that we are really in the overbought territory with the NASDAQ, or right at the door of that, and we didn't get much of a pullback here, so we're still basically really up there flirting with the overbought territory on the longer-term chart. So no, I don't want to buy this, even though we've had a little bit of a pullback, and even though the other markets may drive higher and this may follow. No, I'm not going to buy this one. Quick look here at oil, the oil index here. We talked about this a couple days ago. We told you that you had a head and shoulders formation. You'd proven that here, closing below the neckline, looking for support at this area, as that was a previous support line, so you would fall to that level, because we knew that anyway, just based on measuring this out and then doing the measurement here and blah, blah, blah. And so then we talked about we were there yesterday, and we expected a little reversal, and that's exactly what happened the following day. However, no hammer candlestick formation. I'm not going to buy this. Son of a biscuit, we got stopped out of UUP, the US Dollar Bullish Index Fund. We talked about this was being concerning when she pulled back to here. Didn't give us a strong hammer candlestick formation, and that can be worrisome. And the next day, after we were saying yes, we'd be a buyer here if the next day was higher, the candlestick formation there just doesn't show a lot of enthusiasm to the upside. That was also the same time that we were looking at the pullback in the markets, saying we don't think the pullback is the beginning of the end. We think you're going to move higher in the markets, and if that was true, which it obviously is, then the dollar would actually reverse back in the other direction, so it would kick us out of the trade. We knew that anyway, and here we are today. The Russell 2000 Small Cap Index. This one, you might have been able to use this as a buying opportunity if you got it intraday today. But now that she's made this entire move, filling this big gap that you had at this time, she's moved too far for me to be a buyer because there's basically no pullback left on the table for me to trade to the upside. So no, I'm not going to chase this guy. We've already made good money on this trade here. Had a secondary opportunity here. Got stopped at the very next day, I think it was. You're just not going to get me back into it at this time. I've got other charts that just look better. I prefer to buy the pullbacks rather than the breakouts. However, for those of you who are interested in buying this as a breakout opportunity, you couldn't do that. With this particular chart, we don't have the volume analysis here, so we can't tell you whether the volume confirms a breakout or not. Like you saw with this one here, it was obviously a false breakout. You had the breakout and then she just broke back down. You may do it again. However, we talked about a week ago about the Russell 2000 also having resistance above it in the longer term chart that's going to be keeping a lid on this price activity breaking out to the upside. So you can trade it if you'd like, but just keep a tight stop on it. I'm going to pass on it. The S&P 500 Large Cap Index. Yeah, I would do the same thing I would with the other charts. Hammer candlestick formation. If we get a higher high the next trading day, I'd put a stop here and then be a buyer at the moment that it happened because we have a series of higher highs and higher lows. So yes, I would be a buyer here. Silver's chart basically looks like gold's chart, so no, I'm not going to be a buyer even though we have a hammer candlestick formation here. And we haven't seen it yet, but we could see a higher high the next day because she's starting. No, I'm not going to trade this because she is in an overall downtrend, and therefore I'm not going to mess with it until this trend shifts and we start to see a series of higher highs here and here maybe. Then I'd consider the next pullback if she had a series of higher lows. I could say, okay, now the trend maybe has changed, but right now we don't have that. Poor Canada is like fighting tooth and nail to stay bullish. It's really not a chart that I'm going to be a buyer of course. We've talked about this for the past couple of weeks. You've got this first shoulder, the head formation, the second shoulder formation at about the same level as the previous. All of these things tell me that we may be looking at a head and shoulders pattern. If she closes below the neckline, which is drawn right here, this blue dotted line, then that's exactly what's happened. And you would measure this distance out and add that, or subtract it, I should say, from the breakout point and get a target for how low you expect price to continue falling, basically testing the previous low here. So yeah, I'm not going to be a buyer here. This is trying to fight it off, but unless she breaks out to the upside, she's probably going to roll over and be nasty. The VIX, or the Volatility Index, runs the inverse of the S&P 500. So when this guy is down, the S&P 500 will be up, and so forth and so on. So if this guy was in a downtrend, then you would expect the S&P to be in an uptrend. And that's the theory here. Whenever we're looking at this chart, this is a couple things. I didn't talk about this yesterday, but this is one of the reasons why I could look at the chart yesterday and tell you to look for a reversal in the markets and find support at that middle Bollinger Band line, because this guy, the VIX, was finding resistance there. This is the middle Bollinger Band line. Then it jumps up here and gives us a inverted hammer, a shooting star formation here. This is basically telling you there's resistance there. It didn't have a lot of room to move to the upside, and that basically told me what I needed to know about the markets, that yes, they would find a bid or find buy pressure on their middle Bollinger Band line, which is exactly what happened. And now we're getting a move here, really nasty day to the downside here. I don't see strength here. I don't see a buy opportunity at this time. What I actually see is the first leg downside here. Then you got some consolidation, a little flag pattern, if you will. And I think we've got another move like this coming here, which is going to translate into a really bearish, a really bullish move for the markets. So that's why I'll be taking this buy opportunity that I've been showing you on the charts. Now you know everything that I know in the markets moving into the week ahead. And that was all pretty cool, right? All right, awesome. Enjoy your weekend. God bless. Be sure to check out our free website at perfectstockalert.com. It's right there. It's 100% free. All we ask in return, please refer a friend, maybe 2 or 3, because we really want to grow this website. It's a free service, and we appreciate you guys' support. God bless. Bye-bye. I'll see you all next time. Please take a moment to review our disclaimer. The information provided herein is our opinion only. Under no circumstances do any statements here represent a recommendation to buy or sell securities or make any kind of an investment. You are responsible for your own due diligence. To summarize, we do not provide investment advice, nor do we make any claims or promises that any information here will lead to a profit, loss, or any other result. These videos are for educational purposes only.